Inside episode 21 on Outsourcing Live, I have a special guest who I interview and find out how he's taken on a different form of outsourcing through the method of apprenticeships, an ingenious idea. Also, inside the quick tip, I take a look at how you can use screencasts to create your own videos quick and fast without using a camera. Let's hit it!
Welcome to the Outsourcing Live podcast, where you will learn to build a virtual team to run your business. And now, your host, Tyrone Shum.
Hi everyone, it's Tyrone Shum from Outsourcing Live, and today I'm really excited, and as every time I'm actually getting an interview, I'm actually extremely excited, but today's a special podcast because I've got someone who I've been following and listening to their podcast since day one, and theirs is a very, very popular internet business podcast which talks a lot about the ins and outs and what they do about podcasting and their internet business and so forth. So what I'd like to do is to introduce to you Tim Conley from Foolish Adventure. So welcome to the call, Tim.
Yo, what's up, Tyrone?
It's really exciting to have you on here, and thank you so much for coming on. And I think a lot of people probably already know you because I've talked about you inside my podcast previously, and also I've mentioned you a few times. So
I'm famous.
Well, for the people who don't know you as well, may as well ask you to tell a little bit of background about yourself firstly, so people get to know who you are, and we'll probably jump into a little bit more detail about what we're going to talk about after that as well. So I'll pass the mic back to you, Tim.
Oh, wow. The short story is I've been a marketing consultant for a little over 13 years. And that was something I just kind of fell into through getting into the internet world back in the late 90s and turning that into first a startup, which I had absolutely no idea what I was doing.
Wow.
And I learned, was having to learn how to code a website and run a business, try to raise money, the whole works. So that was where I got started in the internet world. And that was in 1998 when I was officially an internet guy. Before that, I'd made some really bad websites. Actually, I would call them web pages, not websites. Like starting in like 96 and in 93 and 94, I was on bulletin boards and using like Gopher and a few other things that don't exist anymore, as far as I know. That kind of a nerd world. I wasn't a coder. I wasn't one of those guys. I always looked at everything like, oh, does it have like a business application to it? And then I eventually, it kind of became my life.
That's so cool. I got to say, I remember back in the 1990s when I was looking at doing that, and I was still actually only in high school now to think about it. But it was so cool to be able to learn all that stuff. And I remember those static web pages. And then when the net changed and we started seeing like WordPress come in dynamic pages, that was like mind blowing. Now it's all part of the norm, isn't it?
Yeah, back when I first started as a consultant and started getting into web design, if we wanted to do a dynamic site, we had to code the site completely from scratch.
Oh yeah.
There were only a couple of things out there that you could buy that could assist in content management systems, but they were outrageously expensive. And then along comes LiveJournal.
Oh yes.
And a few other things before WordPress, and those were like, oh wow, that's pretty interesting, but it's all hosted by them, so you can't really do much with it for a website. And so even by say 2002, I was still having. By that time, I wasn't writing anything anymore, but we were still creating our databases, database-driven websites, which we don't even call them that anymore, right? It's like,
it goes to show how geeky we both are.
well, it's like they're called, content management systems now. Back then, they were database-driven.
Oh yeah, all them.
Because that's what they were. I mean, the database served up the pages, and they had to be hand-coded, and that was pretty crazy, and it was very expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But it was getting down to where we could charge $5,000 for a website that had a content management system coded in.
Oh yeah, I remember those days. Even though I never charged for it, but I remember when I was speaking to a lot of my family friends who was in IT before the IT crash and just before the boom and then the crash happened. They were telling me about how much they were making, and I was like, oh man, I gotta get into IT. That's actually the reason why I got into IT initially, and then after all that, life changed. So I thought, oh man, it's not definitely an industry to stick in because it changes so much and obviously you can see how much has evolved over that period of time.
Yeah, I that's why, I'll let you get on to the actual interview, but
That's okay.
that's kind of what got me into having other people do the different things. I started off as a designer, really. I got my education in design, and to turn around and try to do this in the web, and I was doing it, and you could make really good money at first. And then I realized it would be so much better to have other people doing these different things and just focus on going out and getting the business. And that's where I transitioned into.
That's so cool. So you've been in this industry for the last probably 10 years or so, or actually more now. Now you say
Longer,
19.
yeah.
Yeah, 12, 13 years at least. So over that period of time, when was that transition phase that you saw that you needed to step out from being a designer to manage people and get people to do that?
I'll have it kind of like in a little story here.
Yep.
I used to be a skater. I was one of those skater punks, that everybody hates, that would skate out in the road and all that. And I used to skate in some contests. And it was amateur contests. I never went pro. And so when I was skating in some amateur contests, and by that time I was 20, I was 20 years old, and I had a scout looking at me, so I'm like thinking, oh, this might be my big break finally. And I ended up bailing on one of my tricks, and the guy just stopped looking at me. And here I am surrounded by these kids. I mean, literally, like some 10-year-old kids out there, kids half my age, that were doing some killer stuff. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep up with that. And so that's when I said, okay, this isn't for me. And as things started changing and in my design skills, it's like, okay, I'm not a guy who sits down and wants to just do design all day long. And if you're not that guy, you don't need to be a designer. And that's and when I finally realized that there's some young guys coming up behind me who live for coding sites. Once I realized that, I said, okay, this isn't for me. This is my next transition out of skating. I'm leaving the design side and letting these young Turks come in who can just kill it with design skills, and I'll go out and bring in the business.
That makes so much sense. I think a lot of people get stuck in that phase of just doing it themselves, which is either being the designer, the programmer, etc. And they don't realize how after a period of time there's going to be better people, or I shouldn't say better people, but people who have better skills that will be able to really help you grow your business, because at the end of the day they're doing the work and you're just bringing the business in.
Right. Oh, not. I would say more than just skills. If you look at some of the people, if you go into like a software company and you look at the young guys and women who are out there sitting at their computers and they're coding, you can see the hunger in what they do. Like as soon as they're done at work, they go home and do it for fun. Right?
I know people like that.
Yeah. So if you're not one of those people, you cannot compete with them on that kind of skill.
That's right.
So I knew it would be a short term if I kept being a web designer, that my business would be short lived, because I wouldn't be able to. I wasn't that guy who just ate and breathed and slept coding sites. I wasn't that guy. So I knew my day was numbered as to when it was going to happen. I didn't know, but I was proactive and started looking at developing my sales skills, developing marketing skills, developing these things that I knew that like no one could take away from me.
Absolutely.
Because technology may change, but human psychology stays the same.
Exactly. That's so true. So going back, or actually winding forward a few more years, you've been developing those skill sets that you mentioning, becoming better at your sales skills, communication skills, networking skills, etc., to help you develop your business. And at the same time, you're hiring people to run that business. What is it that you currently do right now?
Right now, I've shut down nearly all of my consulting company. I've got it. I had been slowly pulling back where I was only doing a handful of clients a year, but now it's down to just a couple of clients. And every so often I'll take on a project that I find really interesting. But I have like really tight reasons why I'll take on a client. And so I've been taking that away and got into this thing called Foolish Adventure. And I don't mean to like plug my show or anything.
That's okay.
My friend Izzy, he was the co-host of the Foolish Adventure show up until recently. And he and I would just sit around talking internet business. And he was a guy who was running his membership site. And it was making a really good living for him. He was a stay-at-home dad, and he could run it from his home studio, and he was having a great time with it. And he loved talking about this stuff. And we'd just sit around talking, and then I'd end up just inadvertently consulting on his company.
That's why Izzy was always saying, "Man, thanks very much for the free consulting, Tim." Every time. Right.
Yeah, so he did that a lot, and then he just said, "Hey, what we should do is just share this with the world," and then we kind of codified what we were about, and that got listed as Foolish Adventure. And that's like a story in itself, but it was just a chance for us to sit down and share what we knew about how to build a business, not that whole startup world. We're not into going to Silicon Valley, raising money. We're talking about people who maybe are just kind of sick of their job or just want control of their life, a better control of their life, and want to be able to earn their keep in the world. And on their own terms. And so that's how we, came about with this show.
And that's a really, really popular show. I know a lot of people follow you on that show and really take on a lot of the advice, because I personally have taken on a lot of things I've learned as well too. And I'm always learning. This is the thing about being on the internet is if you continually learn about the new things that are happening and also implementing, you'll really, really succeed. And you've shown a lot of success stories on Foolish Adventure, and I'm giving you a bit of a plug there, but it's definitely a podcast that I'd highly recommend people to hop on and listen. So,
thank you.
So the previously, if you haven't been following Tim on his Foolish Venture with Izzy, they've actually separated because Izzy's focusing right now on his own business, which is the how do you call it, video production business on Final
Cut. He teaches people how to do video.
How to do video.
Yeah.
And Tim's taken over from that, which is really, really amazing, because from what you guys were saying, there's a lot of things that Izzy felt he was holding you back from. So I would like to actually find out, or if you wouldn't mind sharing, what are some of the things that, since you've taken over Foolish Adventure and focusing on that now, as you mentioned, you've cut down from your consulting business, what is it that you're currently doing for Foolish Adventure and within Foolish Adventure to grow it?
Well, one, I had to learn how to podcast. Essentially, for over a year, I showed up at Izzy's and sat down at a microphone, put on a headset, and talked into a mic.
So the whole time Izzy was doing the recording.
Yeah. He did everything. He had this little home studio, and he knew all the software. He handled all that. And I showed up, I talked, we were done, and I went home.
Wow, that's full on outsourced.
So I had to learn how to podcast. I had no idea what to do. And I never really asked about like what kind of microphone should I have, what software should I use? I never asked because I didn't need to know. Just as a little tangent, that's something about learning about an internet business is I like doing things on a need to know basis. Like, there's no sense in me buying a $2,000 course on how to do something in internet business if I am not already using something else that I already know. If I'm not, if I don't even have a website up, I don't need to know how to go out and do internet marketing. Email marketing.
Yeah.
I don't need like a $2,000 course on email marketing
Totally.
if
Totally agree.
if I don't even have like the basics down yet.
Yeah, that's so true. Otherwise, you just sit on the shelf and just collect dust, and it happens
Right,
a
right.
lot of times. I've seen that.
Yes. Yeah.
So from there, you had to learn podcasting. What what have been some of the challenges? Because I remember when I was on your podcast recently, you mentioned to me that you're using Adobe Audacity. Is that right?
Audition.
Audition. That's right.
Yeah.
Audition.
Audacity's that
Oh yeah,
free,
the free
the free
software.
one. And,
See, look
and
how much I know about podcasting.
the thing is, I didn't know how to use it. So I couldn't figure it out. I asked people like, okay, how do I do this in Audacity? Because they're like, yeah, I use Audacity. And they're like, well, I don't even know how to do that. I'm like, well, I need to do these things. And I just couldn't figure it out. And then I saw someone else, Dan Andrews from another podcast, Lifestyle Business Podcast. He gave me some hints and said, go do Audition, push these buttons, and you're done.
Oh, cool.
And I did. And my audio came out sounding really good, especially for someone who knows, literally, I don't really know anything about podcasting.
So it's amazing how quick we can learn, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, and I didn't. All I learned was how to do these certain things that would give me good sounding audio, and that's it. That's all I learned. And now I'm off producing a podcast, and it takes me time to record. Say when you and I sat down and did our talk, I took that, edited it, and then processed it and had it loaded up onto my hosting account, and that was it. And I was prepped for whenever I put out my post. And so I only learned like the things I needed to know to get the job done.
That's
I didn't try to become an expert in becoming like an audio technician or anything crazy like that. Just do the thing to get the job done.
Exactly. And it's so true for a lot of things, because we all, I guess, in many ways have a very time restrictive schedule, if you want to put it that way. Most of us are time poor, and we only want to need to know on a need to know basis. It sounds like a movie saying a need to know basis. It's so cool though, because I've still been following your Foolish Adventure podcast, and to be honest, I haven't noticed any difference in terms of the quality. You've obviously picked it up very quickly, where no one even noticed that you and Izzy separated in terms of technology wise.
That's the nice thing, is that technology continues to advance, and if you focus on just learning the things to get your job done, whether that means to learn the skills to put out a podcast yourself or to find somebody who can put out your podcast for you.
Exactly.
You learn the skills necessary to get the job done. And then if you want to become an expert, like if you want to be an audio technician, well, then learn how to use Audition and all those other tools and get all the fancy equipment, learn those things if that's what you really want to do with your life. But if you want to run a business, well, learn just enough to get the job done, and then bring on experts who can make it perfect for you.
That's really, really good point there. And in actual fact, now talking about experts, I'm curious to want to find out as well, have you brought anybody on to Foolish Adventure? I guess I should mention, I know you've brought on someone, but people probably don't know about your internship. So maybe if you wouldn't mind talking about that, people who can help you, and also experts you've brought on to help you with Foolish Adventure.
I've gone on record as saying Dan Andrews is a genius.
I agree.
And so if Dan listens to this, Dan, you're a genius. He came up with this tropical MBA, and I thought this was like one of the best ideas that I'd ever heard in a lot of years, where he was taking on interns to come in and help him with his business. He had websites that needed attending to, and so he was bringing on some really hungry guys who wanted to become. They wanted to travel the world. They wanted to control their lifestyle. This whole lifestyle design thing, and yet they wanted to make a living. They wanted to be able to pay for this trip. They wanted to learn from somebody who's in the trenches building an online business. And he created that. And so I finally said, okay, I'm knocking this off. I'm going to do what you're doing. But instead of calling it an internship, I called it an apprenticeship. So that was my little twist, right? So I have an apprentice who's working with me, and she's pretty sharp. She's a designer. She's in the whole craft world. So she does a lot of really cool design stuff, but it's not really meant for web design or anything, which she can do a great job with. She does things with like knitting and other physical craft and art stuff, and I'm harnessing that creativity and bringing it into a foolish adventure, and working on an idea that is still in its infancy, but will hopefully become a publishing company.
Wow, that's very interesting. Well, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are curious about how you went about this process of hiring your apprenticeship. I mean, it's very easy for us to knock off from Dan Andrews' tropical MBA internship, which is done exceptionally well. And I'm pretty sure people want to know, how did you go about finding this person? Because it's not something you just go and say. Actually, I'll let you share how you did that.
Okay, again, I knocked off Dan. I stole everything that he came up with. But one of the things that you need for this style, this tropical MBA style, I think this is something that you need, and that's an audience. You need people who are attracted to your ideas. This isn't like a standard internship where you put out, hey, this is either a free or a paid internship, and you're going to come and you're going to serve us coffee or whatever. It's not like one of those traditional internships. This is where you're getting people who truly buy into what it is that your business is about. And to get that, it's going to come from a listener. And so that's what I had. I had people who either knew of me from Foolish Adventure, or they knew of me because of Dan. And so I went out, put out what I was looking for in a person, and got a ton of submissions from people. And it just blew me away. The quality of people that applied, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe this.
Wow.
And so I picked Ellie because I had this project on the shelf related to e-publishing, and her skill set just meshed so well with that.
Can I ask, has Ellie ever been on your show before? Is that...
Not on the show.
No, sure.
I did a recording with her as a way to just kind of introduce who she was and what we were going to be working on.
Yeah.
But I didn't put that out as a regular show. It was just a talk between the two of us, and I posted it on my Foolish Adventure blog, but not as a part of the show.
Yeah, because that name just rings a bell. I remember you did talk about Ellie in a previous podcast or something like that. So that's why it just rings a bell, unless it's a different person I'm remembering.
No. But I've had other women on the show, and that was something that that Izzy and I had talked about. It's like, here we've done the show for over a year, and the only woman who's been on the show was Izzy's wife. Yes. And Izzy got to talk a good portion of that too. So we never showcased a single woman, a successful woman on the show. And that was one of the first things I wanted to remedy.
Yeah, that was really good. And I enjoyed that podcast when I was listening to it as well, because it was a different perspective. And for me to say this, women do think a bit differently to men. So it's good to have that kind of perspective as well, and to learn from that too, because I know we can pick up a few little bits and pieces to implement into our business from that.
Yeah, I agree. I think women do think differently from men, and it's not like men are better or women are better. Though I know I could pander and say yes, women. Well, like comedians do. Yes, women are better than men. I could do that, but I'm not going to. I think we have the essentially equal but different skills. A different perspective is the way we look at businesses, and it's like if you don't have the other half of that, if you don't have women working in your business, not participating in your stuff, then you're missing out on the other half of an entire perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And because there are going to be a majority of the population who are, well, actually, I shouldn't say majority, but there are probably more women online than it is men for some reason. Because I think the population in the world is that there are more women in the world than there are men. So I don't know. I'm not 100% sure of that statistic, but I've heard it somewhere.
Well, we'll
Don't
say
quote me on that.
it's, we're going to say that there are more women than men and leave it at that. Mostly because they live longer than men do. So,
Exactly. So coming back to Ellie, who's now taking on an apprenticeship with you for Foolish Adventure, you mentioned she's going to be focusing on the project with you to do e-publishing. Would you be able to give a little bit more insight about what that involves?
well, I've been watching the e-publishing world for a very long time, long before it became e-publishing. Back in the early days, one of the very first kind of products that was available for sale were digital products. As soon as the PDF was created, the ebook was born. Like people started selling that. Even before that, I'll go back even before that, where email came out and people started selling access to newsletters.
Oh yeah.
So
I do
so
remember
if you wanted to get this information, it was just they just took the concept of the print newsletter and said, well, we're just going to email it to you. And that was the start of selling information online. So then the PDF was created, the ebook was born, and I've watched that, and I've been a part of it for a very long time, helping companies get ebooks out and other digital products, as things evolved over all these years. And then so now I'm looking at this new wave that's been created by a technology that's been around for a while. The ebook reader has
that. Oh
been around
yes.
for a lot of
Oh, it
years,
is. Yep.
but nobody wanted to pay $500 for something that could only read an ebook.
Yep. And guess what?
Nobody wanted that. But then what happened was it got cheaper. But then more so than that, the readers got cheaper. Amazon made use of their platform and said, you know what, we're going to sell these things. And that massive platform that was already in place, it was like just turning on a brand new market. And then all they had to do was get the readers out to people. At first, they were still pricey and clunky and heavy and all that, but people were like, "Wow, we like these." And then they got a little smaller. The Kindle got smaller, and it was still kind of clunky, but it was still pretty cool. And it was easy to read with that whole e-ink technology. There was no glare, so you could read for hours on end without hurting your eyes. And then it got cheaper and smaller, and last year it just took off.
Wow.
And this I'm really excited about this market. I'm excited about ebooks. Something essentially a 12-year-old technology. I'm excited, as if it's brand new.
It's got me excited because I can see the potential in that. There's like, if you imagine millions of books around the world converted electronically, people don't have to lug around these big books anymore. They can literally click like how the Like how the iStore revolution or the App Store revolution revolutionized the world. People are buying things for 99 cents and buying a ton of them.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
this
because you don't think about it. You know, it's
exactly.
like it's 99 cents. It's an impulse buy.
Yep.
It's like buying candy at the grocery store. You're walking through the line, you see the candy bar or the gum, or you realize you need batteries. You grab it and you throw it down, and you walk out spending extra money that you
Exactly.
hadn't planned on. That's what these new e-readers, the Nook and the Kindle, now with the Fire that they've just released, that we're going to see a huge boom in the ebook industry over the next few years.
I totally agree, and I'm really excited to get on this too. In actual fact, I have been publishing behind the scenes. I've been doing a bit of publishing too, so that's why I'm keen to get onto the ebook side of things as well, just like you. Which is really amazing because I think a lot of us online who run internet businesses start to see these trends and we follow them. And I do actually remember you and Izzy were talking about this episode about trends to see and predict the future,
Right.
which was a really interesting one. And I have to say, I agree with a lot of things that you've said there because if you're not looking ahead and looking at where the trends are going to be heading, you're going to fall behind. And you've picked one that is exactly that's going to be booming at least minimum 3 to 5 years, I'd say. It probably will never go away.
Oh no, it definitely won't because especially in the fiction side and the nonfiction side, that's going to be where I'm going to play in is the nonfiction side. That's where my strengths are, and that one's going to be a little sketchier. That's going to be more hit and miss than say the fiction world. But I'm focused. I make content. I make a podcast. I have a membership site and all that stuff. So I make content, but I'm looking at. There's so many smart people out there, and I'm not looking to take like all their stuff and try to make it mine. I just want to publish other people's smart stuff. And so that's going to be I'm saying this as my business model, like sitting here telling you this and going out to the world, and I'm not afraid of it because it's going to be a big market, and I think it's going to be a really powerful thing. So if somebody listening is in a particular industry, publish your ideas from your industry. Or if you've just got some great ideas and you don't want to do all the publishing, contact me and I'll do it.
Yep, definitely. Well, there's a contact for everyone who needs to get the book published.
Right. Because that's one of the main projects that I'm investing in right now, both time and money.
That is really amazing. So have you got the system that's ready to go, or is it right now you're still in that development system with Ellie to put it all together?
Yeah, we're developing, we're testing on content that I already have. So we want to figure out, okay, what's the process of turning someone's knowledge into essentially a very cheap digital product. You and I both have played in the world of info products that cost a lot of money. Okay, we're talking under $5 here. We're talking about creating information products that are going to sell for under $5, and so that's going to take systemization. And I think that's probably why a lot of people won't want to publish it that way when you could sell an ebook online for $40.
Yep.
Why would you go to Amazon and sell your ebook for $3?
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. But what I'm seeing is there's going to be this huge market of essentially people wanting more information and impulse buying it.
Just like the App Store.
Yes, just like the app stores.
And that's gonna be very interesting. That means that in order to publish these things quickly, as you say, the systems are going to be very important because we're not looking at doing 1, 2, 3 books, I don't know, a week or something. You're going to be doing a volume-based business here where it's all about producing really high valuable content, but at the same time getting a lot of it done. Correct?
Right,
Yep.
right. Because the traditional publishing world has a 2-year lead time before a book gets put out.
It takes a long
And
time.
oh yeah, you just can't afford that in this new world. So what I'm looking at is, okay, how do I build the systems? What kind of people do I need to bring on board that can take the knowledge of an expert and turn that into a sellable product that people will pick up for a few bucks, and still somehow make a profit out of that.
Have you figured that out yet? Or are you still in the works?
So we're still in the works, and that's going to be my secret sauce. So I'm not, so I'm not going to give those kind of details out.
That will be really, really amazing to see, because I'd be definitely keen to jump on board with you then, Tim, since now you mentioned it to me. That's awesome. So basically, it's really building a system, and then on top of that, finding the right people in place, which comes back down to hiring a great apprentice like Ellie. And I assume that you're going to be adding more people to the team. Is that right?
Yes,
Yep.
yes. As soon as we get like a couple of things done, and Ellie and I are in a groove of producing, getting stuff done. Once we're in that kind of groove, then I'm going to bring someone else on, and then get that person into the groove of getting stuff done, and just keep focusing on that stuff.
And keep repeating it and just multiplying and leveraging it from there.
Yes.
Yep. That's cool. So let's jump back a little bit, because I'm always curious about managing or hiring the people and outsourcing the work as much as possible, so that way you don't have to do it all yourself. In the process of hiring Ellie, for example, as you mentioned, she's come on as an apprentice. Is she going to be looking to stay on the business long term, or is it just an apprenticeship until she finds something else? Like, how does that all work?
Well, I don't know. Right now, it's a 3-month apprenticeship.
Yep.
And essentially, she's going to be helping me with projects that I have and helping me develop the systems. And if this idea is as good as I think it is, then hopefully she'll stay on. Yep. And she'll want to stay on because she'll be a part of building something that's just brand new in the world.
Yep, that's great.
So that's a hope. But again, we got to make sure that we like working with each other. And so hence the 3-month apprenticeship. But then again, I hope to teach her a lot of skills that if she just says, you know what, you taught me a lot, and thanks for the apprenticeship, I've got this other business I'm going to start, and go off and do that. And I would say, awesome, more power to you.
Definitely. And I mean, it's a win-win situation, because she helps you, and then also she's gaining something in return as well in terms of a skill set. Could I ask, in terms of, I guess, return for value, or is it an exchange of service, or is it also a monetary exchange there as well for something?
I'm paying her.
Yep.
Yes.
So basically, in doing an apprenticeship, it's depending on how people want to structure it, it's possible to do an exchange of services or do an exchange of monetary value, like paying someone to do that. And you've obviously done it quite well in that situation right now. So yeah, it's really amazing to be able to hear these things are going really well for you on that side of things, Tim. And in the future, as you mentioned, this is one aspect of Foolish Venture. Is that right? The e-publishing?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, yeah. So a year and a half ago, Izzy and I decided we were going to create Foolish Guides, and we just never pulled the trigger on it. And so it's been this idea has been sitting there and just eating at me, because I could see the trend was coming a year and a half ago, and it exploded like right afterwards. The ebook market just skyrocketed right after that, and it's just been something that's been sitting on my project board, and I just kept looking at it, and then I saw Ellie's skills when she applied for the apprenticeship, and I said, okay, I'm pulling the trigger on it.
And that's where you've jumped in, and this is pretty much the Foolish Venture e-guides, if you want to put it. Is that right?
Yeah, essentially.
Essentially.
So it'll be the Foolish Guide to X, So one of the things that I'm going to focus on is essentially business stuff, because those are my skills. and it's what I understand. But eventually, maybe the brand takes off, and then there's Foolish Guides for all sorts of stuff.
Wow, that's very, very exciting. I can't wait to see what's going to happen there. And you are leading the way because this is new that I haven't heard this kind of stuff before. So, wow, you're really leading the way in technology and advancement and development. Hats off to you.
It's just watching the trends. It's watching what's going on online and picking one, and that's just one. Like other people have, Pat Flynn has jumped on to doing apps.
Yep.
And a bunch of other people have too, gone that direction. And I looked at that and I'm like, oh, maybe if I had started on that 2 years ago, I would have felt more comfortable with it. Because at 2 years ago, it was still really hot and still really young. And I was just like, it wasn't for me at the time. So I chose not to go that direction. But then I see this other one coming, and I procrastinated. I should have been doing this a year and a half ago. But it's still, I think I watched one big boom last year, and this year I think it's going to be even bigger. And the next year is going to be even bigger. I think it's going to be exponential growth.
I actually agree with you because now with the iPad and iPad 2 that was released not long ago, and then every year with Apple releasing continuously new versions of that, and also Amazon releasing new Kindles and Nooks and Fire and all that, it's going to only get bigger because they wouldn't be stupid enough to produce so many of these devices when there isn't a market for it.
Well, the market's there, and they're all building these platforms. And which just makes it easy for consumers. That's the problem with ebooks that they've always had, is it's not easy for consumers.
And that's what makes it really easy now for them to be able to access it.
Right. So that's why I see this e-publishing world as like a new frontier, old idea, old technology, new frontier. But that's not the only trend out there. There's a bunch of them. This one just happens to fit my skill set.
And that's really interesting because saying that, do something that fits with your skill set and you're passionate about. And obviously you can hear the excitement in your voice. So it's very important for that.
I better be excited about it. I'm sinking money and time into this.
Well, Tim, it's been awesome to be able to hear about all these things. Anything else that's going to be happening for Foolish Adventure?
Yeah, I've got a few other things that are kind of like secret projects. So those I'm not going to talk about. But I'm in the middle of doing a complete rebranding of Foolish Adventure and to gear up for this e-publishing world. So I'm redoing all that. I have my friend who's my website designer. He's been with me, working with me for a while now. He helped me. He was the guy I would go to with my consulting business. I outsourced the design and front end coding to him.
So was that done by him for the Foolish Adventure as well?
The new design is.
Yes, yeah.
The current design was just a free theme from Woo Themes.
Oh yeah.
It was put up as a temp. And it's been there now forever.
Hey, I have to say, that's been a really good theme, though, regardless, because it suits your brand already as it is, because you got that cool, foolish type of comedy, fun, loving, internet type of business look on that website. That theme just suits it really well. But I'm excited to hear or see the new design that you're coming out with. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm excited about the new one. The new one is really fresh and more fun, more vibrant than the one we have, and so it's going to just mesh with all the different things that are going to be coming out under the Foolish brand.
That's exciting. And how are people going to be able to get in contact with you if they wanted to?
They can go to foolishadventure.com and just check out the show. Listen to some episodes. Hopefully, you'll get some value out of those. And if they want, they can get me on Twitter Tim Conley, TimConley, at Tim Conley. I respond to anyone who talks to me on there. So
There are a lot of people. I was going to say there bound to be people who want to talk to you, Tim.
that yeah, I enjoy it. And I'll answer there much faster than I ever will email wise.
Okay, well,
Not because I'm some prima donna about email or anything. It's just that email takes a lot of time.
yeah.
And somebody takes a long time to write to me an email, I feel really obligated to, respond back, and I just hate that. And not because I'm taking away from my members, I'm taking away from my company. To have like a chat that maybe they could have just found the answer in one of the episodes, or they could have just hit me up on Twitter and we could have had a quick conversation, and they would have gotten the information they're looking for.
Yeah, that's right. You've got about like 70 plus episodes on Foolish Adventure right now on iTunes.
As of now, I believe episode 70 is out.
Excellent. Well, everyone who's listening to this, definitely check it out. It's a really fun, exciting, and really amazing content inside for Foolish Adventure, and there's a lot of it. I've listened to every single one, and I still will continue to listen to Tim, to everything that he talks about, because it's very, very valuable information. So, Tim, thank you so much for coming onto the call today. It's been a real pleasure to share all your knowledge, and I'm really excited for your Foolish Adventure e-guides, and I'm really looking forward to that. Going to have to get you get back onto it when that does get launched, and share that with the audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, letting me rant about ebooks for a while.
You're welcome, Tim. And thank you again. It's time for the Outsourcing Live Quick Tip. What I want to share with you in the quick tip is a really, really easy way to be able to capture screenshots and also record what you're currently doing on your computer. Now, if you're not, able or confident to sit in front of a camera and just talk and to share information, or you don't want to go through that and spend that kind of money to get equipment, there is a very easy way to be able to present stuff on your computer using a screen capture software. And there's actually a lot of free ones out there, but there are ones that I highly recommend that are simple and easy to use that are paid. And usually the paid versions are a little bit better than just the free versions, because you've got a lot more flexibility and also a lot more control. And there's two things. There's two versions that I can recommend, one for Mac and one for PC. So the first one I'm going to recommend to you to check out for PC is Camtasia Studio. And you can actually go directly to the link at outsourcinglive.com/Camtasia. And on that particular link, you'll be able to access Camtasia Studio's website, and furthermore, be able to check out that piece of software to use. I used to use Camtasia Studio when I was on a PC, and that was a brilliant piece of software, and it did amazing things for capturing and allowed me to do edits on my screen. Now, as I'm on a Mac, and if you're on a Mac and you're an Apple user like I am, another piece of software that I'd recommend is called ScreenFlow. ScreenFlow is something I've been using for quite some time now, and all the videos that you see on my website that are how-to demonstrations or step-by-step things is using ScreenFlow to capture that. Even today, when you're listening to this podcast, I'm using ScreenFlow to record all this as well, and to be able to upload what you see on the screen onto YouTube. To be able to access that, it's actually at outsourcinglive.com/ScreenFlow, and it'll take you directly to the page about more information on that one. So check out those two pieces of software that would be able to help you create some really amazing content using screen captures on your screen. Now, that's only the first step. Getting the software will help you be able to record some really, really amazing stuff. But the next step is to actually provide or get some training on how to be able to create these amazing things. And there's actually a training course that's been recommended by, I'm actually recommending it to you. And it's a person that I've known through Web University called David Zawinski. I can't pronounce his surname, so I apologize for that, David. But he's created some amazing tutorials on how to do it. If you check it out, it's at outsourcinglive.com/screencast secrets. And he'll show you step by step on how to be able to create some amazing screencasts, to put some visual effects, to have good sound, to show you exactly what people are viewing and making sure that your screencasts are looking amazing. Because the only way for you to stand out in the crowd is to make some amazing content that looks great for people to watch. And in order to do that, you've got to learn how to do it if you don't know how to do it already. So I'm just highly recommending some training information and some courses here that you could check out. And this is stuff that I've gone through. And the reason why I recommend it is it's very, very high quality. And if they're teaching you high quality stuff, I'm very sure that you'll be able to produce the same kind of effects that they do. Now, don't worry, if you don't remember all the links inside this podcast, I've actually got it listed down below the show notes on this particular podcast episode. So to be able to get all the links and everything that I shared inside the quick tip and also the podcast, all you have to do is go to outsourcinglive.com/episode 21. Now, if you like more resources like this one, you can find them inside Mass Outsource Mastermind, along with video tutorials and step-by-step instructions showing exactly how I use them. To get a 30-day, no-risk trial membership to Mass Outsource Mastermind, simply visit freevideoset.com. Until next time, I wish you success in your quest for outsourcing.